Lipan Apache are Southern Athabaskan Native Americans whose traditional territory included present-day Texas, New Mexico, Colorado and the northern Mexican states of Chihuahua, Nuevo León, Coahuila, and Tamaulipas. Prior to the 17th century, present-day Lipan lived mostly throughout the U.S.Southwest, in Texas, New Mexico and the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in Arizona, as well as with the Mescalero tribe on the Mescalero Reservation in New Mexico. Some also live in urban and rural areas throughout North America. The Lipan Apache tribe of Texas is headquartered in McAllen, Texas. Synonymy: the name Lipan is a Spanish adaptation of the self-designation as Eli Acute Painde Acute, reflecting the migratory story. The Lipan are also known as Cuaracha, Vaqueros, Pelones, Nde Buffalo Hunters, Eastern Apache, Apache de los Llanos, Lipan Ipand, Ipans, Ipans, Ipandi, Lipanes, Lipanos, Lipanes, Lipanes, Lapan, Lapan, Lipanas, Lipas, Lipor, Apaches Lipan, Apacheria Lipana, and Lipanes Claneros. The first recorded name is Ipans, Bands. By 1750, the Lipan Apache were driven from the southern Great Plains by the Comanche and their allies, the so-called Norteños. The Lipan divided into the following groups: bands: Eastern Lipan, Tse Acutare El Tuataha, Tse Acutare El Tuataha to the power of N, merged later with the Tche Shah and Tse Acute El Tatli Dsh, lived south of the Nueces River in Texas, about 1884 extinct. Tche Shah to the power of N, lived from San Antonio, Texas, south to the Rio Grande. Kanaki Nde, Kanaki, Conce Nde, made up of many bands and family groups that joined together after being forced into an escaping slavery, lived from Louisiana to East Texas along the Red River, sharing a kinship with the Cune Tsa Nde Acute. Kol Kuka to the power of N, Kol Kaha to the power of N, Quelcaran Nde Acute, lived on the central plains of Texas along the upper Colorado River, and its tributaries southward to the Pecos River. Tcho Kana, Tcho to the power of N, Kana to the power of N, merged later with the Tche Shka, lived west of Fort Griffin, Texas, along the upper Colorado River towards the western side of the Rio Grande, about 1884 extinct. Kokmecha Skolaha to the power of N, lived south of San Antonio as far as northern Mexico. Tse Acute El Tatli Dsh, Tse Acute El Tatli Dsh to the power of N, merged later with Kokmecha Skolaha, lived east of the Rio Grande along the Lower Guadalupe River and Nueces River in Texas. End or Qoha, End or Qoha to the power of N, End or Oka to the power of N, lived southeast of Fort Griffin, along the Colorado, San Saba and Llano rivers towards the upper Nueces River and its tributaries the Frio River and Atascosa River in Texas. Cheyenne, Cheyenne, Nde, Shinny, Shara to the power of N, most northern group of the Lipan, sharing contacts with the Kiowa Apache. They were forced to relocate 1884, when 300 people were moved to the Washita Agency in Oklahoma. Tse Acutes Sombai, lived between the upper Brazos River and the Colorado River towards the west. Tel Kondaha, to the power of N, lived west of Fort Griffin in Texas, along the upper Colorado River and its tributaries were renowned and fierce warriors. Western Lipan Tutss and Nde Acute Tun Tsa Nde Acute 2 Cis Nde Acute Cune Tsa Conat Say Nde Acute Formerly a Natchez band, they lived in the Gulf coastal plains towards both sides of the Rio Grande into Coahuila. In 1765 the greater part of them left San Lorenzo de Santa Cruz and went into Mexico, and the territory stretched deep into Coahuila. The territory was called Conitzagoquia. Magusha's band, too, Cis-NDE, would later merge with the Mescalero as the twin son. Tz acute shk she acute nde acute tz acute c perhaps lived former along the upper Brazos River, later moved down to live near Lavon, Mexico, about 1884 extinct. Tindi nde acute tuende acute tura to the power of n, Taza to the power of n, lived along the upper Rio Grande in southern New Mexico and in northern Mexico. At about 1850 they were in close contact to the Mescalero. Tcha to the power of n to the power of n lived along the eastern shore of the Rio Pecos in Texas, were close allies of the Nada and Natchez. Twid nde acute tuatine nde acute moved north and therefore away from the Gulf area. Later they lived between the Rio Grande and the Pecos River, near the juncture of the two. They became much mixed with the Mescalero and merged later as Tuatanini with the Mescalero. The two Cis-NDE acute who tried to remain nearer their old territory on the Gulf but who were finally driven over into Mexico, are sometimes quite critical of the Twid NDE acute because of their apostasy and mixture, and classify them as a Mescalero part Mescalero group. Zeta T NDE, T Sehaten NDE, Taz SDEE acute Biglui NDE acute, wearing a red turban-like headdress like the neighboring Mescalero, lived in the deserts of northern Mexico. In addition, the following bands were recorded: Bayou Hit NDE acute, Buigi Elon NDE acute, lived in the deserts and high plains of New Mexico and northern Mexico. Haydidla NDE acute, Goshash NDE acute, lived from the lower Rio Grande Valley in southern Texas into the Mexican state of Tamaulipas. Today descendants living in the lower Rio Grande area. Zua NDE acute, lived in the lava beds of eastern New Mexico and northwestern Texas. Jumano NDE acute, Suma NDE acute, have continued to live in the lands of the lower and middle Rio Grande, the Nueces River, the Frio River, and the Conchos River watersheds. Today descendants live in the middle upper Rio Grande, West Texas, El Mesquite, El Conejo, El Muleto, Chihuahua. Indantara NDE acute, Narc NDE acute, Mexicans who intermarried with Lipan bands who sought refuge in Mexico. The Spanish associated these groupings with the Lipayans, who fought and withstood the Comanche on the plains. Natigas, Ipans, not to be confused with Lipayans or Ipanis. They were first mentioned in 1718 records as being near the newly established town of San Antonio, Texas. Closing parenthesis. Clanero. Pelones, the kin, west and southwest of them, sometime allies, sometime foes. The Mescalero called them after the location and living conditions. Tuatanini, called by the Lipan Twid Nde, Western Lipan, because they lived most of the time in deserts, steppes and mountains. Tween Sun, called by the Lipan Tu TSS and Nde, Eastern Lipan, because they lived in the river valleys of the southern Texan plains against the Gulf of Mexico. History. The Lipan are first mentioned in Spanish records in 1718 when they raided Spanish settlements in San Antonio. It seems likely that the Lipan had become established in Texas during the latter half of the 17th century. They moved southward during the 18th century. A Spanish mission for this people was built in Coahuila in 1754 and another on the San Saba River in 1757. Both missions were burned and deserted. The San Saba mission was destroyed by the Comanche and their allies. During 1757 the Lipan Apache were involved in fighting with the Hassane. The Lipan participated in a Spanish expedition against the Wichita and Comanche in 1759, but were defeated in the Battle of the Twin Villages. Their territory ranged from the Colorado River to the Rio Grande. Two Lipan local group chiefs had a total of 700 people in 1762. Since there were at least 12 other local groups, Morris Opila estimates that the population was approximately 3,000 minus 4,000. He estimates a total of 6,000 in 1700. The Spanish and Lipan frequently were in conflict as Spain tried to invade and colonize the Texas territory. The Spanish tried to thwart the Lipan through alcohol, provoking conflict between the Lipan and Mescalero, making them economically dependent on Spanish trade goods, and converting them through missionaries. It is not certain if the Lipan ever lived on the Spanish missions, but by 1767 all Lipan had completely deserted them. In the same year, Marquesas of Ruby started a policy of Lipan extermination after a 1764 smallpox epidemic had decimated the tribe. Shortly after that, the Lipan entered an uneasy alliance with Spain in fight against the traditional enemy the Mescalero. The alliance fell apart before 1800. Another serious enemy of the Lipan was the Comanche, who were also opposing Spanish colonists. Many historians cite Comanche aggression as a factor leading to the Lipan's southerly migration. At the beginning of the 19th century, by contrast, the Lipan formed an alliance with the Comanche to attack the Spanish. In 1869, Mexican troops from Monterrey were brought to Zaragoza to eliminate the Lipan Apache, who were blamed for causing trouble. Troops attacked many Lipan camps. Survivors flee to the Mescaleros in New Mexico. From 1875 to 1876, United States Army troops undertook joint military campaigns with the Mexican Army to eliminate the Lipan from the state of Coahuila in northern Mexico. In 1881, a large campaign by Mexican Army's Diaz Division forced all Lipan out of Coahuila and into the state of Chihuahua. Chiefs, Bigotes, Pocaropa, Cavezon, Casimiro, Yolknapocaropa, Cuelgas de Castro, Flaco, Costalites, Magoosh, Coco. Language. Lipan Apache is a Southern Athabaskan language that was still spoken by two people in 1981 on the Mescalero Apache Reservation, as well as by members living off-reservation throughout North America who strive to keep the language and culture alive. In popular culture, a song by the band Tool titled Lipan Conjuring off of the multi-platinum 10,000 Days album features Native American chanting over soft percussion. This tribe was mentioned in a 1996 episode of Unsolved Mysteries about Devil's Backbone. Snake Jason Blocker of Deadliest Warriors and National Geographic's Survive List series is a famous Lipan Apache. Lipan Apache, grandfather Stalking Wolf, was the boyhood mentor of Tom Brown Jr. and is featured prominently throughout Brown's books including The Tracker, The Quest, Way of the Scout, and Grandfather.